So we have Jovan Jaroslav on his Grixis control deck versus Michael on his, I keep forgetting what black blue white is called. Well, it's black, blue and white. There you go. It's a blink control-y type of deck. So both of these decks aim to bring the fight to the mid to late game. So expect a lot of back and forth in that area of the event. Michael won game 1. So we are in game 2 now with Jaroslav on the play and Michael taking a mulligan. Let's hope that these players have a slightly more humane pace, so I can actually keep up with all the different plays. Michael, looking at his alternative 6, decides to keep and scry, and we are underway for game 2 of this second quarterfinal with a Renegade map. Quite a ubiquitous card these days. Again, neither of these decks really has that much early game pressure. There can be a gifted Etherborn randomly popping up somewhere, but that's about it for the first couple of turns. Both players just sitting on a bunch of removal and tricks. And the map on the other side of the table. Oh, Michael apparently only has that one land available to him. Jaroslav cashing it in. Does he have some things to put early pressure? The aforementioned gifted Etherborns. Of course, these players already sideboarded, so there's not really sure what they did to their decks, of course. For Michael, you have some Throb Inspectors and Vengeful Rebels, but these are all cards that, well, except the Inspector, that he would rather play late in the later in the game. That's a fortuitous find from Jaroslav, returning that Renegade map and already showing that the approach to this match is much more making sure that you are making your land drops, that you are staying on top of where the game is going, especially when your opponent like Michael here is struggling a bit. And then Michael realizes that he's the one now who has to make sure the game ends as soon as possible, because he's down cards and tempo, and plays that Vengeful Rebel without even having the Revolt trigger. Not that that's so exceptional. Fatal Push takes it out. And for those of you that read the article, who's the beatdown? Michael is the beatdown now, with Jaroslav taking the role of the control deck. The self-assembler stayed in for Jaroslav, and again it's interesting to see how Jaroslav's playing pace changes when he's in an advantageous position. Must have quite an effect on his opponents to see him getting more excited about how the game is going. And we have a decommission. from Michael. He had to tap his prophetic prism there. Michael, decommission kost witte mana. Okay, just a quick correction there. And the self-assembler chain will be starting. It's a nightmare to be trading one-on-one with these creatures. You have to, because otherwise you just start getting crushed by the sequence. Michael not fetching before he draws. Either already has a 4-drop or the land available already. Or is hoping to draw into more lands here. Harpooner. It gives him an answer against one of the assemblers, while if there's another creature on the board, can provide a blocking duty as well. And in the meantime, Yaroslav coming in relentlessly with the self-assemblers. Here's brother number 3 or 4. Are we on 4 yet? Yes, we're on 4. 1 decommissioned, 1 harpooned, 2 brothers left. Okay, Michael. And the thing is, while all this is going on, of course, Yaroslav has been drawing cards and adding things to the board. Gifted Etherborn hits the battlefield and is pushed right off it again. And we have an acrobatic maneuver to reuse the harpooner, destroying another tapped, and we have the wretched Griff from the sideboard coming in to save the game. Still not big enough to trade with a self-assembler though, so still punching through for damage. Fortuitous find gets back 2 of the self-assemblers, and Yaroslav just keeps grinding into Michael with the unending train of 4/4s here. A second Griff, a hard cast this time, makes sure that Michael has enough blocking power to actually kill a self-assembler now. Will still be eating some damage on the side as that goes on, and will be losing one of his Griffs. And a prophetic prism from Yaroslav, drawing him a card, getting ready to smooth his mana, giving him access to blue mana as well, don't forget. Double blocking with the Griffs, trading a Griff for an assembler unless Yaroslav has removal. No, we have resolved combat already as we continue on with the match. Why are these players playing so fast? And here is the next wagon of the 4/4 train. Can Michael keep up? He's at 7 life right now, so there's a constant threat of lethal on the board from now on. He needs at least 1 creature to make sure he can have a trade, and that's another vengeful rebel without the revolt trigger, just a 3 mana 3/2, because it's just enough right now. That opens him up again to a bunch of more tricks from Yaroslav, who probably needs to just keep ramming into Michael's defensive line here. He will at least lose another self-assembler, but this time he's also facing off against Michael's open mana. And another acrobatic maneuver or a displace or an essence flux could have great devastating consequences on this board right now. Yaroslav clearly realizing the possible trap he's walking into, thinking how he can play around it. There's actually blocks being declared, so that makes it somewhat unlikely certain abilities are coming in. Oh, and that is an acrobatic maneuver on the Vengeful Rebel to save the Griff. That gets answered by a sabotage, which is countered by a negate, I guess. Wow, pretty crazy sequence here. And means we lose a self-assembler. Michael keeps all his creatures since the Vengeful Rebel got blinked and the Wretch Griff was fighting a 1-1. And then there's a gifted Etherborn entering the fray for a Yaroslav. So is this Michael stabilizing? He's looking a lot healthier than he was just a few seconds ago, and a Gonti further gives him options against the self-assemblers, while giving him some tools borrowed from Yaroslav's deck. Getting to blink the Gonti is of course very interesting as well. Apparently it was only a prophetic prism. It gets him an extra card though, as Yaroslav is starting to feel the pressure turning back against him. Sacrifices an Evolving Wilds to thin his deck and also have a little riffle through to see what he could be drawing to get out of this situation. So let's see if he actually can. That negate on the sabotage was a pretty big swing in this match for sure. Yaroslav in the tank. He still has Michael on just 7 lives, so there are a lot of sequences of play where Yaroslav simply wins the game. He has some reach in the form of Unlicensed Disintegration and Burn spells. I don't think he kept in the shocks though. Choosing to attack with both, that's offering up a double trade, keeping the battlefield simple and predictable. It's something you'll see with a lot of better players, is that they aim to keep things empty. Of course, if you're holding Liliana, the Last Hope, that equation goes out the door completely. But if your opponent has a negate, then that's not that relevant. Wretched Griff finally gets to go onto the offensive, and here we have a Linvala, the Preserver, swooping in. No, other one is I Need Your Sister. The Preserver swooping in to return Michael to a healthy life total, giving him a very juicy blink target and providing him with a very sturdy attacker with evasion. Suddenly the game has turned upside down, even with this Kalitas. It doesn't look that good for Yaroslav. And then Yaroslav, all he needs is one removal spell on the Linvala, and bam, we turn this race and situation around completely. But it didn't come. A Cloud Blazer further solidifies Michael's position in this game, pushes him a little higher up in life total as well, as this game is slipping away from Yaroslav with each passing draw and tap of Michael's cards. Kalitas comes in, doesn't have a lot of other business to do, is on the confined to the ground after all, and is a pretty tough nut to race with his lifelink. So net Michael is racing for 7 damage, Yaroslav for 3. Still losing this race horribly. And again, Michael won the first round, so if this game is... Oh, and we have a harpooner to take out what is probably the most likely avenue that Yaroslav still had to get to a win here. Lethal on the board, 2 creatures that survive a sabotage. I'm not sure what Yaroslav can even draw here to get him out of this very, very sticky situation. And it is... I think I see a succumb. Yes, that's a succumb to temptation. But Yaroslav just extends the hand. Michal Milius is going to the semi-finals of the Gentry Open. Thank you very much for